Joe Rogan is a 6-time MMA Personality of the Year winner and has been featured in 3 EA Sports video games. He went from growing up with an abusive father and being terrified of being called a loser as a child to having one of the most popular podcasts and YouTube channels on the planet. Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person that you know, but you also know that you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Joe Rogan, and my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Be the hero of your own movie.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie, and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now? Do that. Do those things. We define ourselves far too often by our past failures. We look at our past and we say, well, that's me. That's not you. You are this person right now. You're the person who's learned from those failures, and you can choose to be the hero of your own movie right now. Write down your goals. Write down things you want to improve. Write down things you won't tolerate from yourself. Write down things that you've done in the past that you never want to see yourself do again. And go forth from here as the hero of your own movie. Build momentum. Build confidence and momentum with each good decision that you make from here on out. You can do it. Anyone can do it. We live in unique times. We live in one of the rarest times in human history where you can choose almost all the input that comes your way. Whether it's the movies that you watch, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, you can choose to be inspired. Do that. Do that and be the hero of your own movie.
Rule number 2, be the best version of yourself.
It's good to treat other people the way you would like to be treated yourself. It's like a golden rule, and there's a reason for it. And that reason is that we're connected in some strange way that we don't totally understand. And unless you are good to other people around you, unless you're kind and friendly and warm and loving, you're not going to enjoy this life. You're just not. You're going to be problems everywhere you go. You're going to have problems everywhere you go. You got to figure out a way to enjoy this life. It's not because of Jesus. It's not because of Moses. It's not because of anybody that may or may not have ever existed. It's because that's how you fit in better in the world. That's how you stay positive. And it doesn't have to be some that was written 5,000 years ago on animal skins. That doesn't have to be the golden rule because it's old. That's dumb. We need to figure out, like, now, today, what is, the best way to live your life? What is there's got to be ways you can be putting forward the most positive energy. I mean, we know objectively what's causing pollution. We know objectively what's causing birth defects, and we're taking in too much chemicals and not enough vitamins. We know objectively all this stuff. We know how to organize our world, and yet we don't do it. We know how to organize our health, and yet very few people do it. We know all these things. The right path to being a happy, healthy person is to do all the shit that we already know you're supposed to do. Take care of your body, take care of your health, take care of your mind, your stress, meditate, be kind to people. We all know that. I mean, you ask anybody, they know how to get by and to be the most evolved version of you that you can be. I mean, it's not like a magical checklist. If you talk to people about it, you said, okay, here you got a person, you want to improve them. What are the things that you're going to do to them? Okay, well, if I was a life coach, the first thing I would say is this guy's got to get on a diet that makes him healthy. I don't mean a diet just to lose weight. I mean just healthy foods in your body. Many vegetables. Vegetables, a lot of good quality protein, a lot of water. Stop the sodas. Stop the bullshit. Start working out your body and get a better sense of how this machine feels when it's moving, it's flowing better, there's less tension in it, your mind feels relaxed and you enjoy every single moment of the day better. Step 1, everybody knows that step, right? What's step 2? Be cool to people. Be nice to as many people as you can. Smile at as many people as you can. Have them smile back at you. Tip well when you go to restaurants. Just do the most you can. Be as nice as you can, and just still manage to not have people walk all over you. Just get through this life as nice as you can. What else? Do what you want to do with your life, right? Don't go be doing something you don't enjoy. Don't do something don't get locked into, a car that you can't afford and doing something crazy because you need the money. Don't do that. Do what you want to do. Do what the is it that you really want to do? Because if someone else is doing it, you can do it. I mean, everybody makes their own path through this world, but a lot of people don't follow the path that they really feel pulled to. They just, for whatever reason, they got negative programming. When they were kids, someone told them they couldn't do it, or told them to take the shortcut or take the shore route. That's a sad thing, man, when you talk to dudes, especially like talented dudes, and they don't follow up with what they want to do,
Rule number 3, stop making excuses.
There's a bunch of people that will say, yeah, well, I have a family, so, it's a great idea for you to just go out there and go crazy. I have people to support. You need to listen. Stop saying that. Stop saying any of those things. Every single person who has ever done anything worthwhile or exceptional or difficult or extraordinary, anyone, whether it's great artists or authors or mathematicians or whatever it is, everyone encounters difficulties. There is no easy road. It does not exist. It is impossible. Everyone has issues. If you have time to pursue a hobby, if you have time to do anything in your life, you can better yourself. And here's one way you never better yourself. When you come up with excuses for why other people are successful and you're not, that is dangerous. When you give yourself an escape, yeah, well, that's easy for you to say, you do this, you do. Trust me, everybody has a hard road. I wanted to jump out a window several times during my young life. I wanted to jump in front of a train and just end it because it's too much pressure. Not really, but you know what I'm saying, theoretically. We all go through hard times. We all go through depression. We all go through doubt and moments in your life where it's really difficult and you're trying to figure out what the your path is going to be. It's hard as shit. But Stefan and I were talking about this before the podcast starts, that is what makes you a person. And those difficult moments are what build your character. Show me a great man who's the son of a great man. That's what we're saying. These kids that are born billionaires, you're never going to be a self-made person. You have a backup trust for your backup trust for your trust, and you're man.
Rule number 4, explore difficult tasks.
I'm fascinated by martial arts. I'm fascinated by comedy. I'm fascinated by many, many different things. I don't understand when people say they're bored. Because if I had the time to live 100 lives, I'd be speaking different languages. I'd be living in different countries. I would try a number of different careers, because I think there's a lot of unbelievably fascinating, puzzling, complex things that you could study in this world. That's just me and my personality. But that's a personality also that I've cultivated over years of challenges.
Were you like that as a kid too?
Well, I was involved in martial arts very early. Yeah. And I think that is one of the things that motivated me to explore difficult tasks, because through difficult tasks you learn an incredible amount about yourself, and you through the fire of competition you get to understand motivation, you get to understand the resistance that you have inside your mind to doing hard work, you get to understand the rewards of discipline. Like, you don't truly appreciate relaxation unless you've worked hard, and that is the yin and the yang of life. And I've said this to the point of people getting sick of it, but one of the worst decisions a man can make, I can only speak for men, obviously, is to be comfortable. I don't think you should try to be comfortable. I think what you should try to do is try to earn comfort. And if you can get a day off where you've worked hard and you've accomplished goals, that day off will be so sweet. When I work hard and I sit in front of the TV, I enjoy the shit out of it. I put my feet up, I have a nice drink. I enjoy my free
chairs
time.
that nids your back or something like that?
I do have one of those.
Do you really?
Those are great.
They're great, right? Yeah.
I don't use it that much though. Honestly, I'm more of a workaholic than I should be. Probably, if the balance was, I probably should relax more than I do, but I never feel like I earned it. But that's part of the reason why when I do feel like I earned it, I can enjoy it. It's because I am more connected to the idea that I need to accomplish things, and it's not like for anybody else's benefit other than my own, or anybody else's approval other than my own. When I have a task, whether it's today I'm going to write 1,000 words, or 2,000 or whatever the number is. If I don't do that, I write things down. Like I'll write down a list of things that get accomplished that day. And if I don't accomplish that, I'll get sick. Like it'll drive me crazy. If I can't fill out that list, that drives me nuts, but that's what led me to be a championship level martial artist. That's what led me to achieve it's like that. It's the reinforcement of those goals, like understanding that you can achieve those goals. It's going to be difficult. You're going to push through the difficulty, and then you're going to understand what difficulty truly is and how much of it is just mental, how much of it is just in your mind, this adversity to difficult task or to struggle. And a lot of people have that. They're scared. They're scared of complications. They're scared of failure. Failure is a big one that people are afraid of. But failure is one of the most important things you could ever have as far as like the motivation to do things differently. One of the reasons why I think that I'm good at friendships and relationships is because I've failed at them in the past. One of the things that I'm good at comedy is because I've bombed on stage. One of the reasons why I'm good at work is because I've been a worker in the past, and I know the feeling of failure, the feeling of shame, of being like a weak, non-motivated, lazy person. That's a weak feeling. It's you don't respect yourself. And I have this phrase that I use all the time to people to try to motivate people. I say that be the hero in your own movie. Pretend that if your life was a movie and your life started now, what would the hero do? What would the person that you respect do? What would the person that you admire, a person that inspires you, what would they do? Well, do that and if you do that, you slowly build momentum. You like, today I did what I wanted to do. Today I started a class in yoga. I did this. I did all these things that I was saying I wasn't going to do. And now I feel momentum. And momentum is a very important point in people's lives. That's why some folks don't like to take days off, because they feel like they're losing momentum and they sort of have to restart the wheel up again after a vacation.
Also, if you want to have confidence and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
Do what you want to do. Do what the is it that you really want to do? Because if someone else is doing it, you can do it. It's good to treat other people the way you would like to be treated yourself. It's like a golden rule, and there's a reason for it. And that reason is that we're connected.
Rule number 5, push forward.
And there's a lot of folks that live life on a cushy cloud of marshmallows and bullshit. And then one day something goes wrong. And I mean, that's why spoiled kids are so sad. Like a spoiled young boy is one of the saddest things ever. A young boy that becomes a man and can't take care of himself, and his dad has to keep on rescuing him. His dad has to keep on bailing him out of situations and giving him money. I've met guys like that. And that is a crippling affliction when they don't have the character themselves to be able to get by in life. They constantly need someone to help them and bail them out. Even as a grown man, I've met guys in their 40s that still need help from their parents. I'm like, what the man? You're never going to get it right, because somewhere along the line they didn't face enough of the adversity to realize that there's sometimes you just got to get up and get shit done. There's sometimes where you have to pull yourself up and you have to push forward even if you want to stay in bed. And if you don't do that, and you just keep calling on your daddy and your daddy keeps rescuing you, you never develop those tools. You never develop that ability to recognize what you're doing wrong with your life. Because you're soft, you got a cushiony, you got a safety net for your safety net.
Rule number 6, work towards something.
If you had a kid, obviously you do have a kid, but say if you had like a 20-year-old and he's just a doper, where he wake and bakes and doesn't get anything done, he's just always like hanging out with his friends and playing video games, and he's just a loser. Yeah. I wish there was a way you could show someone like that. Like, I know that you're getting some comfort and satisfaction out of just laying around, doing nothing, eating, getting fat. But your life would feel better and richer if you had a goal. You chase that goal, you accomplish some things, you would get this boost of confidence, you'd get this boost of self-esteem, like whatever it is that you're into doing. Maybe you're into drawing comic books. Maybe you're into making pottery or sculptures, but find whatever the that is and pursue that instead of doing nothing. Like the people that are doing nothing, those are the real people. I mean, look, doing something might be as simple as like that Alex Honnold guy. He just climbs rocks, but he's world-class rock climber. It's something.
And it's also a goal of his, and he's also the best at it, right?
Yes, yeah.
But those people who smoke pot all day and do that, those are also the guys who hate on Joe Rogan for being in shape. You know what I'm saying? Or being disciplined, or get on Kevin Hart's Instagram and hate on him. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't, it's their own insecurities. I see what you're saying, But I would assume they would get motivated by seeing other people do something with their lives. Like that should be motivating, not
but if you grew up with losers and you're around a bunch of people with shitty attitudes, especially if it's in your household, I was very lucky that both my mom and my stepdad, they're the least hater people I've ever met in my life. They're just not haters in any way. Like if someone's doing well, they're always like, wow, look at this guy, or like, wow, look at her, or wow, look at him. There was never any hate in my house in terms of other people's success. But if you grew up with a dad and your dad's like, yeah, all these rich assholes, this you think she's a badass, and this, there's people that look at other people's success, and instead of saying, wow, that guy did a lot of work, like the way I'm a successful person, but the way I look at Kevin Hart, he exhausts me, or The Rock. Those guys exhaust me. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I feel lazy next to those guys. Like, they do so much. Like, those guys are so overbearingly ambitious, But some people, they see that and they compare themselves and they don't like it, so they start getting really shitty. And it's like a natural feeling to try to chip away at that person.
Rule number 7, focus on improving.
And the worst people that are the people that don't have a good self-judge, that everything they do is awesome. Yeah. Those never grow anywhere. Right. I mean, that's a huge issue with comedy. When you run into people that have terrible comedy sets but think they did great. Like Greg Fitzsimmons and I would always talk about that with like open micers. Like there's people that hear phantom laughs, like they think they're doing great, and they have this delusional self-opinion where everything they do is awesome, and they don't know why they're not successful already. They don't know why they're not famous. And those people, I believe, in some sort of a weird narcissistic way, you could look at it this way, that those people are there to teach you. This is the consequences of not feeling that awful feeling when you fail. I was talking to Burr a couple weeks ago. He did a set at the Comedy Store, and I saw part of it. It was he was killing. And then I ran into him in the hallway, and I go, "Oh man, main room show was great, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I f***ed up at the end though. I tried to hang in there too long, and the last bit bombed." Like he was it was rotten at him that the last bit. Like he goes, "I f***ing hung in there too long. I should have got off of the bit before that." Yeah. But when I was in there, he was f***ing killing. Yeah. But that wasn't in his mind. The success was not in his mind. What was like, okay, whatever that happened at the end, don't f***ing do that again. Right. Right. But that's why he's Bill Burr. That's why he's really good.
Rule number 8, don't get stuck in life.
When you're alone with your thoughts, you get an idea of what your thoughts actually are. If you live your life just acting constantly on the momentum of other people's expectations, of you wanting to be liked by these other people, you can run into a trap, and you set up a life that you didn't really want. You're trapped in this situation where you have a mortgage, you've got credit card bills, you got student loans you have to pay, you have a bunch of shit going on that you have to continue to feed. And all that, and especially if you have a family and you have to feed them, oh my goodness, then you're fully locked in. You can't take any chances whatsoever. And oftentimes people make the mistake of getting stuck. And it is just a tactical mistake, just like it would be a mistake if you got stuck on a video game. Just like it would be a mistake if you followed a map incorrectly and you get stuck in the woods. Your life is certainly some sort of a journey. It's certainly some sort of a journey. And we have to all be aware that when we're making journeys, we're not going to always make the right steps. And sometimes you have to back up and try again. And if you're in a position where you can't back up and try again, you've trapped yourself. And the system will set out honeypots for people to get trapped in. The system will set out the ideas of retirement, the ideas of the golden years, providing you benefits, providing you a healthy work environment. Why? Well, because they want people to work for them. They don't want people to realize their own dreams and escape. And that's a fucking pain in the ass. So you got to hire more people and train them. And they want to set it up so that you stick around. Stick around in some sort of an unsatisfying world. It's up to you to see that video game problem, to see that issue as it comes up on the map. And no, I think this is a right turn. To see all the problems that could potentially lay in front of you and calculate your future. And then also look around at all the people that didn't do it and look at the misery that they're in and learn that you don't want to be like them. And then look at the people that have kind of taken chances and navigated their way. What did they do differently than you? What objectivity do they have that maybe you lack? What insight into their own mistakes are they willing to delve into that you're not? That you step back and you go, I just don't want to look at myself that closely. But the person who's able to look at themselves the closest is going to get the more rational results.
Rule number 9, spend time in nature.
One of the things that's causing this funk that people are in is that we're living our lives, many of us at least, in these very unfulfilling ways, where you're going to this office with artificial light and you're doing something you don't want to do all day long, and then you get home and you're tired. And on top of that, you're eating shit. You're eating potato chips and you're drinking soda, and your body is just like, what in the f is this? We're supposed to be out in the fields. We're supposed to be walking up hills. We're supposed to be looking for animals or gathering vegetables. We're supposed to be doing all these things that our body's designed to do. We're supposed to be in nature.
Yeah.
And nature is like a medicine. Like, it literally is a medicine to you. Like, people that go, you don't have to go hunting. You don't have to go fishing. Just go hike, man. Just go hike up to the top of a mountain and look out. You know, there's a reward that you get from that is intensely, like, soul-filling. There's, like, something about, like, when I was in Colorado, and there was this this area of Boulder where you drive up one of these roads, and there was this area where you could park, and it was this incredible view, man. And these people just park and just go out there and just look. But you get there and you park and you go, because you would see, you're literally seeing the Continental Divide. These snow-capped mountains in July.
Yeah.
In July, it's covered with snow because those mountains don't give a
Perspective.
Rule number 10, pursue your desires.
One thing that we're an animal, but we're also the next stage of animals where we're aware of who we are and we contemplate our existence. And when you contemplate your existence and you're an intelligent life form, you should always be seeking to improve. If you're always seeking to improve, the thing that you look at is like, what has brought me the most positive results? So it's kindness, friendship, the connection with human beings on a very positive level where you like build up like a trust, and you have warmth and friendship, and you root for each other, and you share in each other's bounty, and you build together. You know, that we all know inherently in our heads that kindness is like one of the best gifts you can bestow another human being, whether it's giving them food when they don't have any, or helping them out, or hooking them up, or doing something to help them, or being around them and complimenting them, whatever the f it is. We know that inherently that feels great, and we know it. We know that that's the next. We have to figure out how to use our resources together so that we can be like that all the time. I think it's always about doing what you actually want to be doing with your life, as far as if you have an inner creative expression to get out. And there's a lot of people that always wanted to be singers, and they just, for whatever reason, never pursued it.
Yeah.
So they just sing around their house, and they always wonder what could have been if they just tried to be a singer. That's one form of, that could bum you out. That's one form of a roadblock in your life. The depressed feeling that you didn't try to reach your potential. You didn't go after what is intriguing to you. Like, we all have almost like a beacon that pulls us in a certain direction. For some people, it's nursing. Some people, it's construction and architecture.
Being a parent for some people.
For us, it was stand-up.
Yeah.
You know, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's something, the happiness that's involved in pursuing your inherent desires is unavoidable. I mean, it's not. It's unappreciated. It's underappreciated. People think, well, all you have to do is find a career. Yes, all you have to do is find a career. But I guarantee you there's one out there that you really, really want to do.
Yeah, the key
Unless
is...
it's just like, I want to be famous. Then you're an asshole.
That's what I was going to say.
Rule number 11, have discipline.
The one thing that discipline definitely does help you with is it helps you get things done. And when you get things done, when you actually do things, you have more success. If you have more success, and sometimes a big part of success is just not being lazy and just doing it.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of it is just showing up. Get there and start working. Like, you're not going to feel perfect every day. If I only worked out when I felt good, I'd be a fat because there's a lot of days I don't want to do it. It's pretty much the same with everybody that actually gets good at something. That there's got to be those days you push through, and they're probably going to be more numerous than the days you don't. And so the benefit of discipline, in my eyes, has always been that through discipline I get things done. Yeah. I always say that I'm like the most lazy, disciplined person I know, because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I always do.
Rule number 12, write it all down.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Write down everything you want to do. I don't mean crazy.
like, I'm going to be the Prince of Brunei. I'm going to have a base in the moon. Shut up. This is what I want you to do. Write down what you would like to fix about your life. And then just, if you're 30 pounds overweight, you want to lose 30 pounds? Do it the right way. Go start eating vegetables, monitor your calories, write down what you eat, exercise every day, force yourself to do it. Say you're the general. The brain is the general, the troops of the body. The troops don't want to listen, but you go, you listen, and you get up and you do it, and then you get to write it down. And if you don't write it down, you don't eat, you don't shower. Write that down so you do it. It's like brushing your teeth. It's not something, I don't want to brush my teeth today. What do you want, your teeth to rot out of your head, you dunce? Just do it. Just do it. Make yourself do it. And if you do that, if you write shit down and do that, you can change who the you are.
Rule number 13, discomfort is your friend.
Our bodies, for whatever reason, most people, their associations are to avoid anything that's uncomfortable. But it's so illogical, because when you look at comfort and you look at success and progress and the feelings of accomplishment and of getting past certain hurdles in terms of like how you feel about life, a lot of those are connected to discomfort. Like, discomfort is your friend. It really is. Like, discomfort and not being happy and content with certain situations in life or certain feelings in life, they're massive motivators, and they're amazing at facilitating change. And yet our instinct is to avoid those and just sit on the couch and watch some reality show about dudes who make moonshine with our jaw open, like, ugh. It's bizarre.
Rule number 14, overcome resistance.
There's a lot of artists and comics, I bet musicians as well, but writers for sure. One of the big problems is sitting down and doing the work. Mm-hmm. And you got to, and Pressfield talks about that in the most concise and beautiful way, and he labels it like an enemy. He calls it resistance. Mm-hmm. And that you have to sit down, you have to overcome resistance, and that the pro goes to work. And it doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if you have kids, it doesn't matter what, you're a pro and you go to work, and that just, it puts it in your head that this is what I do. This is what, and you have pride in that. And then when you are in front of that keyboard and you look down the count, it says, I got 1,000 words today. I put 1,000 words in. You're doing the work, and out of that work, gems blossom. Yeah. Little things, but you might have a day where you just write nothing but dog shit. So what? Show up again tomorrow, and tomorrow out of that dog shit, a flower will emerge. You never know, and that's the only way to develop to really develop your potential 100% in anything.
Rule number 15, don't dwell on the past.
If I look back on anything I've ever done, mistakes I've ever made, paths that something that I put out that I didn't quite think, man, maybe I just waited 3 months before I released that, or maybe I should have, re-edited that blog post a couple more times before I put it online, or those things drive me crazy. Mm-hmm. Things that I've done have driven me crazy, but yelling at someone I didn't have to yell at them for, whatever. But the most important thing is always for all people to recognize that you're not who you were a year ago. You're not who you were 5 years ago. You're not who you were last week. You're who you are now, and this is the only shit you have control over. So you got to regulate how much you dwell on regrets of the past. You really got to be careful, because it's good to have a little. Because my regrets, whether it's things of professional nature or the very few regrets friendship-wise, which is one thing that makes me very happy. But there's life is strange. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of factors happening in life. But for sure, who I am now wouldn't have ever happened if I didn't fuck up. If I didn't make those mistakes, I wouldn't have understand the importance of friendship and kindness. And if I hadn't been cruel at some point in my life, or someone hadn't been cruel to me, I wouldn't understand the beauty of love. I wouldn't understand the full range of it, because I hadn't felt the sting. If nobody ever punches you in the face, you don't really appreciate safety. Because a lot of people don't even understand what safety is. You pretend, oh, we're safe, but you are so not safe at any moment. And when someone's punched you in the face a bunch of times, and you've been in a street fight with some guy you barely knew, you got in an argument with him, there's something about regular safety that's sweeter. Yeah. It's more delicious. Yeah. It's more delicious. It's way better to drive your car straight after you almost lost control on a turn. You're like, wah! And then you get back straight, you're like, whoa. For sure. I'm not saying that you should go sideways around corners, but what I am saying is that there's a yin and a yang to this world, man. And you got to fuel yourself with the ups. And most people get stuck in these patterns because they define themselves as a up, or they define themselves as a person who doesn't follow through on their ideas, or a person who doesn't pursue their real interests and loves. You define yourself by that. Well, I guess I start things and I quit. No, you don't. No, you have started things and you quit. And it gives you a horrible sense of regret that's made you define yourself by that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
Rule number 16, have goals.
Your life would feel better and richer if you had a goal, you chase that goal, you accomplish some things, you would get this boost of confidence, you'd get this boost of self-esteem, like whatever it is that you're into doing. Maybe you're into drawing comic books. Maybe you're into making pottery or sculptures, but find whatever the that is and pursue that instead of doing nothing. Like the people that are doing nothing, those are the real people. I mean, look, doing something might be as simple as like that Alex Honnold guy. He just climbs rocks, but he's world-class rock climber. It's something.
Rule number 17, pay attention to criticism.
I get to where I have to tell people things that are true that are even embarrassing about me now because it's so weird. You can feel the energy. You guys want to talk about that? Because, you brought this up. Elaborate on how strange, because few know this. Few get to talk hours a day in front of people and then learn that it becomes a real relationship.
Well, yeah, it definitely does. And you know what else is? You goddamn, you learn so much from those people, man. Even people who are critical, like they send you a link to correct you, like this is the real information and you have the inaccurate information. Like if you don't have an ego about all that, if you could deal with the fact that you might be wrong, or you might have jumped to a conclusion, there might be many possible scenarios.
It's a giant think tank.
You learn so much from people on Twitter, man. A lot of people will complain about like negative things on Twitter. I don't get that much negative on Twitter, but I occasionally get like, yo, I'm gonna punch you in your face if I see you, faggot.
It's little kids.
But
well,
even the
maybe
negative,
it might not even be
grab
that.
like something from some of the negative stuff. Like even if there's like a ton of negative, usually there's like a 1% truth to it.
Yeah,
that 1%
yeah.
will kind of stick in that back of your head where you're like, all right, he took it to like the next level, but I do understand that 1% of what he's talking about. Yeah,
you can get a hater who's like 90% hater, but 10% has a point. It does help you. I really believe it. It's a terrible feeling, that feeling when someone's hating on you, but I find it very beneficial. Because for two reasons. One, because it's like snake venom. Because like if you get bit by a rattlesnake and you've ever been bit by a rattlesnake before, it will you up. Like someone who has never been famous and then all of a sudden decides to do a reality show and then they get all these insults hurled at them from every direction online. That has got to be horrific. That's just going to be torturous. But when you take a little bit of hate venom and a little bit of hate venom, then you develop an immunity to it. You kind of understand what it is.
It becomes enjoyable.
Well, then it becomes a checking mechanism, and I look at it almost like as if it's an algorithm. And I look at it like, well, this negative coming in, like how much does it affect me, and how much does it affect the positivity that I put out? Like, if I dwell on it, well, then it'll surely me out. But if I just look at it, and if I truly look at myself to say, okay, do they have a point? And if they do have a point, if I am being a like that's very important to be honest about that and to look at that.
Rule number 18, get after it.
I enjoy a lot of things, and what I've found that the best way to live my life for me, I'm not saying, other people, some people really love their life to sit around and f*** off. When I sit around and f*** off, I don't like me. Yeah. I like to get things done, but the things that I do, they're recreational. They're all fun. Mm-hmm. Like Disneyland was fun as f*** with my kids. The Eddie Bravo Invitational was fun as f***. The UFC was fun as f***. My show, sold out show at the Ka Theater where they do the Cirque du Soleil at MGM with Joey Diaz and Jim Norton Friday night. Fun as f***.
It's fun as f*** too.
Those are jobs, right? But those are fun things. Yeah. And, training is fun. Stand-up comedy couldn't be any funner. The only real work is like, you got to discipline myself to sometimes work out when I don't want to, write when I don't want to. This is how I feel. It's harder for me to not do what I'm supposed to do than it is for me to do what I'm supposed to do. Because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then I deal with regret and doubt. I've done it before. I've done it a lot of my life. I've felt those feelings. I don't like it. So what I do is I just don't do that. I just say, well, what is the difference? If I don't do it, then I'm going to have to feel like I didn't do it and feel like a loser. So get after it.
Rule number 19, be creative.
We were talking before this podcast about Holly Holm's victory over Ronda Rousey. And one of the things that we were talking about was that Ronda had this very linear, straightforward attack. You knew she was coming, and Holly is a master at countering. So all she had to do was wait and move, and Ronda was coming in one direction. There was no variation.
There was no creativity.
There was no creativity. It was a mad bulldog rush that had worked on everybody else before. But she found one person who was a virtuoso at movement. And she needed creativity, and it wasn't there. And she needed that experience that came with having faced someone who knew that position and had a deep understanding of that movement, and she didn't have that in her repertoire. And so that's the result that we saw. Like a striker like Anderson Silva is extremely creative. If you watch, he's got a fight versus Tony Ficklin in Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors? What the f*** was it called in England? Small organization in England.
I think it was called Cage Warriors.
Yeah. Where he practiced this step-in uppercut elbow, like a sideways elbow. And his coach was going, "You're f***ing crazy, stop practicing that." And he would make his wife hold the pillow because his coach didn't want him to practice it anymore because he thought he was wasting his time. So he practiced stepping. His wife would hold a pillow for him, and he'd step in and throw this uppercut elbow. That's what he knocked out Ficklin with. Yeah. And he obviously Ficklin was outclassed in that fight, but he wanted to make a point. And like the front kick that he landed in the face of Vitor Belfort, Vitor never saw that shit coming because nobody had done that to him before. Because nobody had done that in the history of the UFC. Nobody had ever knocked anybody out with the first kick you learn in martial arts. But the creativity to try something like that. He would throw punches to your thigh from standing. He would throw a jab to your thigh. He would throw a crescent kick, an inside crescent kick to your face. Like, what the f***? It was part of what made him such an effective striker, is that he threw these things that you just didn't expect him to do.
Rule number 20, practice martial arts.
People who are in jiu-jitsu and train on a regular basis, they're healthier people. Their egos are healthier, especially men. They're easier to talk to. They're easier to hang out with because they're facing reality on a regular basis. It's something my Taekwondo teacher told me when I was a little kid that I never forgot, was that martial arts are a vehicle for developing your human potential. And nothing in my life has ever put me in face with reality better than jiu-jitsu. Because I think, you know, in life we can all distort our perception of things in order to make ourselves more comfortable, in order to make ourselves accept where we are. And there's a lot of people out there that are running around life full of shit. You can't be full of shit when you do jiu-jitsu. When you do jiu-jitsu, it's impossible to be full of shit because reality comes at you in the purest form possible. A life or death struggle using your determination, your focus, your techniques, your mind, and your training, and over and over and over again. And it's reality. And if you up and you get caught in a triangle, you've got to tap, and that is the end of the story. It's as real as can get, and that has made me a better person. It has made me a better man. It's made me understand myself, my weaknesses, my strengths, the shit I need to work on. Jiu-jitsu has been one of the most valuable tools that I've ever had in my life.
Danger!
Rule Rule number 21, build discipline.
Most of what people do is what we're doing right now. Most of what people do is sit down.
But is that because they don't feel like running around? Because some people, like people who exercise, generally you have to put in a little bit of effort to make yourself go exercise. But a lot of people who are overweight and sick don't have enough energy to do that.
I don't know about that. Some of them maybe, but I think some of them just don't have discipline. There's an issue with that as well. There's also an issue with momentum. You're not used to doing it. It's not a part of your life. It's not something that you're accustomed to, pushing yourself. There's been many days where I didn't want to work out. I just didn't feel like I had the energy, and I just forced myself. And I think there's very few people out there that know how to force themselves. That's a learned. That's a learned skill. It's that kind of discipline and focus. You have to have like real rigid requirements of yourself, where you don't allow yourself to back out of things, and you don't allow yourself to slack off. And I don't think people put those kind of requirements on themselves as if it's it is a daily principle of life, like what you must get done. You know, you must brush your teeth, you must exercise for 45 minutes. And if you did that, I think you'd be healthier and happier, and your body would perform more smoothly. And if you require your body to do things like that, I think it rises to the occasion. There are very few people that have that kind of discipline. So because of that, they come up with excuses. And excuses are a giant part of the problem. It's not simply a physical health issue. There's also mental aspects of it, and discipline's a big one. I just know way too many people who are weak mentally. And I can't just chalk it off to only, you know, their physical, the way they physically feel, because I felt like shit 100 times, and then I worked out, and then I felt way better.
Yeah,
it's just a fact of life. That's real. You know, you just gotta. And people don't know how to do that. And it's not. And if you're used to doing this, get in your car, sit down, drive to the office, sit down, go to the lunch, sit down. You know, go to the board meeting, sit down. Get in your car on the way home, sit down. Get home in front of the TV, sit down. Then go to the gym, f*** off. They don't have any energy. You know, their body's not, their body's like, I don't have it in me to do this. And I don't believe that. I think it's a lot of it is the mindset.
Rule number 22, change the wrong patterns.
I think most of us are operating on momentum, and I think you learn things as a child, and those become, you know, whatever your personality is, the way, whatever thought process you sort of have carved into your mind, like the grooves and patterns that you normally find yourself thinking in. And I equate it to a lot to martial arts training. Like I used to teach martial arts for a living. One of the things that I found incredibly difficult was to reteach people. It was way easier to teach a person with no training than it was to reteach someone with poor training. So when someone has poor training, they have these paths carved in their movements and their thought process, and when they're in a situation, they fall back on those patterns, and it's extremely difficult to get people out of that and learn to do things correctly. But if you can teach them how to do things correctly from the beginning, then they naturally, like, this is the stressful situation, here comes the problem, here's the issue, what's the technique, now you know it, and it's locked into your brain. You know the right pathway, whether as like, don't go to the technique you've been using all your life, now use a new technique, and remember to manage that situation under pressure. I think that's how most of us are handling our lives. We're handling our lives with poor techniques and poor management skills, and these paths that are carved in, that are infantile, and that are essentially like the remnants and the echoes of when you were a teenager or even younger than that, and then maybe your parents and the learned behavior that you see watching them, and maybe they weren't so good at managing life either, but these patterns are carved into your brain, and you find comfort in them because you know where they're going, and so you slide right into them. And then as an adult, you start trying to remap your consciousness and remap those patterns. And in doing that, it's very difficult to sort of rethink how you think.
Rule number 23, stay on your path.
Have you ever heard Tony Robbins talk about changing paths in life? He had a really interesting analogy. He talks about like you're going two cars going the exactly same, or a boat rather, two boats going exactly the same direction, but one boat just takes a 2-degree turn, just 2 degrees. as they go further down, the one boat that took the 2-degree turn is going to go wider and wider away from the original path. And that each decision that you make that's a good decision takes you closer. Like, even though it's just like you're just steering your ship as you go out, it's going to be a much different path, a much different end than if you just stayed on the original path.
Rule number 24, do cardio.
And any long-term cardiovascular exercise, you get this. It's like we did, last October, we did the Sober October thing where we had this crazy fitness challenge. So all of us were doing cardio like 5 hours a day, like really crazy amounts of cardio. And one of the things that Tom Segura and I both agreed on is like the amount of internal chatter dissipates to zero. Like you have no anxiety. It goes, I didn't realize I had any anxiety until that happened. And then I was like, God, it goes to zero. It goes to nothing. Like when you do like 5 hours on a treadmill or you just running, just run for when it's done, man, there's this like peace of mind that comes with that. This release of endorphins that's incredibly addictive because that feeling is so pleasing. So it's not that it doesn't feel good to get out of bed and to just push when you don't want to, but the end result feels amazing.
Rule number 25, stop making excuses.
There's been many, many people that have just put their foot down and said, enough, I'm going to change my life. And they don't take any excuses and they feel way, way better. Diet is most certainly a part of that, but there's also a discipline aspect. And these things are not mutually exclusive. They exist together. They're all together. And they work symbiotically. The way your mindset affects the choices you make with your diet. And the mindset also affects the choices you make in terms of like whether or not you require yourself to exercise. And I think these are critical aspects that people like to gloss over or they like to make excuses about. And they get very angry if you don't accept those excuses. And that's a sign that they're trying to enforce this standard and this idea and push it on you and give themselves an excuse. And it's one of the reasons why they get angry. It's one thing if someone has a legit physical issue like you do, but there's a lot of people who do not. They just have poor diet choices, they have a sedentary lifestyle, and they have the momentum of this sedentary lifestyle that's holding them back. They're accustomed to being lazy.
Rule number 26, don't be too competitive.
I don't think you should ever be very competitive with people who are not competitive with you. So here's a perfect example.
That's an interesting thought.
When I do jujitsu, I'm a black belt in jujitsu. If I do jujitsu with a white belt, I treat them very kindly. I might tap them out a little bit, but there's no way I roll with them the way I would roll with another black belt.
Well, that's fighting. There's a difference.
But it's not. It's a game.
Different.
It's a game.
Okay, I mean,
Jiu-jitsu is a game.
Respect.
So if I'm rolling with someone and they're making mistakes, I'll correct their mistakes. If I wanted to, if I'm rolling with someone who's a white belt, I could just cut right through them. Just keep cutting right through them. But you know what you do with them? You discourage people from doing it. And it's not really fair because you're not getting anything out of it either. All you're getting out of it, you're practicing like a grappling dummy. And like occasionally, maybe that's a good thing to do. I feel like once you get into the blue belt and purple belt range, then I'm going to go with you 100%. Yeah. When you're dealing with someone who's not really competitive with you, it doesn't make sense. You're not getting anything out of it, really.
Rule number 27, read autobiographies.
We gather information from other people's life experiences in a very unique way. And it's one of the reasons why people really enjoy autobiographies. It's one of the reasons why people really enjoy truly reflective, introspective thinking, because we can pick out little gems in ourselves. So even though you might be talking in your meditation book about things that other people have talked about in meditation books, you're talking about it from your unique personal experience. Right. And when someone reads that or hears you say it, you get something intangible out of that.
Rule number 28, start small.
From like my perspective, I've seen my dad and he was very like, you can see from the videos from 2014 before he started going low carb and everything, he was carrying about 50 extra pounds.
Right.
And he didn't exercise. And he didn't have enough energy to exercise.
That's not
true. But it didn't look like that.
That's not true. He just didn't do it.
No, I don't believe that.
When you say he didn't have enough energy to exercise, did he walk around?
Well, yeah,
Did
but
he
you can
walk to-
drag yourself through things.
And you can drag yourself through an exercise routine. You can. Oh, you most certainly can. You most certainly can. You don't have to do a lot. You just have to do something. You walk up hills. You jump a little rope. You take a little tiny kettlebell. You do a couple cleans and presses. You do a few push-ups. You do a few sit-ups. You get your blood pumping. You're moving. You're alive. You're exercising. To say you don't have enough extra energy to exercise, that's crazy. Can you walk to the refrigerator? Then you can exercise. I'm not saying that you have to run marathons. You can exercise, and everyone should exercise.
Rule number 29, believe.
I've been in the trenches as an actor for a long time. I'm like, these things don't happen, you know?
Yeah.
They don't happen. And then it happened. I was like,
well, they occasionally happen.
Yeah.
I feel like you will to happen. Like
Yeah.
with my whole life, I just feel like, you know, you got to like will it and just believe it. And if you don't, then it really won't. It has to, the mojo all has to line up.
Yeah.
It helps. It helps if you believe it. But it doesn't. There's a lot of people out there that watched The Secret and thought, I'm going to change my life.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened.
Yeah. No, I think it's essential to believe, and then there's still a lot of shit. But if you don't believe, you good luck.
Yeah, there's a vibration that you have to catch. You have to be on a frequency, and all these things have to align together in order for it to be successful.
Rule number 30, do stand up.
It's only good for me. You're not supposed to live anywhere where they let you drink 24 hours a day. That's f***ed up. And they give you free booze when you're gambling. No, f*** you. That's crazy. How is that the law? And it's all Red Bull plus something, so you got a chemical battle going on in your consciousness. Half of you sped up, the other half is f***ed up, so it's just seesaw battle retardation. When you're on Red Bull and whatever, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, you don't even know who the f*** you are. You got one cylinder that's just moving your feet in certain directions and making up decisions on what you're gonna eat. We went to the Spearmint Rhino Strip Club at 9:30 a.m. on a Thursday. Yeah. And it was packed. That's what was really depressing. That's one of those dumb Red Bull and vodka moments where you're too stupid to be making your own decisions. We were eating breakfast. We were down to 2-word sentences. We were just like, waffles, You know how you get there? You know how you get there? You get to those, and nobody says anything for a minute, and somebody goes, word. And all I'm thinking of is sleep, man. All I'm thinking is, I can't wait to hit that pillow. It's gonna be so nice to go to sleep. And I hear, hey man, you guys wanna go to the Rhino? And I'm like, that's my voice.
Rule number 31, resist your barriers.
Everybody's got these stupid barriers they put in their own head. You got to resist those goddamn things because they don't do you any good, and they certainly define the potential for your future in a negative way that's not self-serving and it's not even real. This idea that there's no way to get past the starting block today is just ludicrous. It's crazy. And it's just this poor thinking. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future. You feel like you're and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. And if you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting. But if you look at yourself objectively and say, okay, I kind of am here. I'm in credit card debt. I'm working in a job. I don't like what I'm doing, but I have some ideas. I need to feed those ideas. I need to feed them and water them, and I need to set aside a certain amount of time every day to just try to make those things happen. You can do that.
Rule number 32, stop being lazy.
People are lazy, and the reason why we're lazy is because it's very difficult for us to waste resources on something that we don't currently do. And even though we know something to be true, that if you do this physical
long-term
thing,
benefits,
yeah, we know that. But
right.
short term, it's like, I don't want to do it right now,
right?
Because your body like craves relaxation because it used to be a very rare thing to achieve.
Rule number 33, put your ego in check.
I was talking to a friend of mine about imposter syndrome. That
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, you know that feeling, you know, expression?
No.
It's you get it when people think that you're really good at something and you don't have a lot of self-worth, or you have this perception of yourself that you're not worthy.
Right.
You know, like maybe as an artist, that's a big one that you have it as an artist. Like I had it forever as a comedian, and I probably still have it a little bit, but less so than I used to, because I'm just more accomplished and more understanding of what it is, and the more engrossed in the process, and I know what it is now more than I did before.
Okay.
And like when I meet famous people, if they know who I am, I'd be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. This person knows who I am. I'm tricking them.
Right.
It's a trick.
They don't know.
And they're like, hey man, I love your stuff. I'm like, no, you don't. You think you do. You don't. Trust me. Let me get away from you.
Right.
It's like this imposter thing. And then sometimes enough things happen where you go, you know what? I think I might be legit. Like, this is so crazy. Like, I thought I was an imposter forever, but I think I'm going to relax and just concentrate on the work and not worry about whether or not I'm an imposter anymore. And just concentrate on the work.
That ego's always there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always there, man. But the ego, it's interesting. Imposter syndrome is often more prevalent in people who are legitimately talented. And for some strange reason, because when you're legitimately talented, one of the ways you become legitimately talented is to be ruthlessly self-critical. Because that's how you get really good at something. And in ruthless like, I remember Cat Williams was talking about himself once. And Cat Williams is a crazy person, but a brilliant comedian. And he said something that I've always thought. And he's like, I'm not a fan of me. And he goes like, I don't particularly like me. It's like, that is why he's great, because that makes you work so hard. Like, the worst thing a comedian can be in the beginning is sure of themselves and then incompetent at the same time. It's horrible. It's horrible because you're not good, but you think you're amazing. And then you understand, you don't know why the world doesn't think you're amazing. Because you think you're great, because you're delusional. You have this sort of artificial image of the world that you've put up, and in the world you are the center. You are the center, and you want everything to evolve around you. Imposter syndrome exists because your ego won't, like, your mind understands that your ego will f this up. If you let your ego say, "Oh, I'm the man," you're gonna ruin this whole thing. Like, you have to be aware of what this is. Like, this ride requires you to stay within a certain frequency. You have to stay inside that frequency. As soon as you start going, yeah, everything's awesome, it all goes away. All of it goes away. You have to stay inside that frequency, and that frequency is not a frequency where you're very pleased with yourself.
Rule number 34: have humility.
It's okay to be wrong. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry.
It's not just okay to be wrong, it's a gift. When you're wrong, it's a gift, because that humility that comes with being wrong is what really helps your education as a person.
Yes, agreed.
As a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a lover, a father, a son. You learn when you f up. You learn like, God damn, I was wrong. Like, that's a valuable lesson, because it's a humiliating lesson.
Well, and you set yourself free too, because there's when you're hanging on to righteousness like this, like, you know, an ability to say that you were wrong. Yep. That is a burden.
It's not just a burden. It's a foolish pursuit. Like, you should relish every opportunity to apologize and say you're wrong as a showing of strength. Yeah. Because if you think you're strong, you think you're strong and you know you're wrong and you don't tell the truth, well, then you're a fool. You're missing out on an opportunity for you to be strong, for you to show that you're strong.
Rule number 35: learn to communicate better.
One of the most surprising things about doing this podcast is I learned how to talk to people better.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a thing. I thought I just was talking to people. Yeah. But then I realized somewhere along the way, not only are people listening, but sometimes I'm annoying. Okay, like, how do I do this where I'm less annoying? And in learning how to do things that are less annoying, I've become a more compassionate conversationalist. I understand how to talk to people better. Yeah. And I've gotten I apply it to my whole life now. I've gotten better at it, and I see people who are bad at it. It's so frustrating. Like, I have some really smart friends, and I'll talk to them and they just interrupt each other and they interrupt you and they don't let anybody talk. They're not listening. They're just waiting for their time to talk. And it's so strange. They're not able to ever consider other people's opinions. They think that everyone but them is wrong. And it's, you know, it's basically like, you know how it is when you see a YouTube video where people have no idea how to fight and you see them fight? You know that thing? Of course I do. That is so crazy. To this day, I'm like, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I don't want to fight anybody, but I see people fight and they have no idea how to fight. I'm like, I imagine myself if I was in a street fight with this guy. I'm like, I would be like, why are you doing this, man? This is so crazy. You don't know what you're doing. Hey, you're crazy. You're going to get killed. You're lucky I'm nice. But that's the same way with conversation. There's a lot of people out there having conversations have no idea how to talk. They're not even really listening to you. They're just so, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you arguing? You're in a conversation. You don't even know how to have one. You're not listening. You're just talking. You're just using someone like a wall that you're throwing a tennis ball off of. It's bizarre.
Rule number 36, seek difficult tasks.
If you look at someone who's doing really well, like say if you focus on like Kevin Hart or someone like that, some very famous and successful comedian, all you see is him now flying around private jets, wearing a new pair of sneakers every day, driving around in Bentleys. You just see that. You don't see him being a young kid in Philadelphia going to open mic nights. There's a progression that you're not witness to. You don't see it. And that takes place in everything. It takes place in authors. It takes place in comedians and musicians. There is a starting point, and then with time and focus, and as long as you reevaluate and reassess and constantly objectively look at what you're doing and then pursue it with passion and focus, you get better at things. There's always going to be people that are luckier than you. Some of it is luck and some of it is courage. Some of it is putting your ass out there. Some of it is trying things. One of the things that I always like to tell people that I think you should do is do shit that's difficult. It's very important to struggle. We have been fed this line of horse that you're supposed to seek comfort, and I don't think you are. I think you're supposed to seek lessons, and you're supposed to seek difficult tasks and accomplishments, and through those things and through doing things that are hard to do, even if it's just a 90-minute hot yoga class, this life doesn't have enough of that. There's not enough struggle. You don't get to know yourself without struggle. You don't get to know your boundaries unless you push them. You don't get to know who you are really unless you're tested.
Rule number 37, don't pursue high scores.
I think of money as something that's entangled into life. Like there's great aspects to what you can do with your money, but it's entangled into your life in a weird way. There's what you currently can do, right? Based on your circumstances, based on your life, your health, your responsibilities. There's what you can do, and there's what's humanly possible for you to do. And when you see people that are making a lot of money, and you see that money starts to get you thinking that that's what you should do. You should do that money thing, whatever that money is. No. I used to make less money. Now I make more money, and that makes more money than even I make. I got to do what that is to get more money. But then you do that, you realize, oh, but this isn't fun. Now most of my day is spent doing something that's not enjoyable. That's not what I want to do. So then it's what you want to do, what you can do, what's possible, and what you want to do. And they don't always go together. Sometimes what you can do is like you have too much responsibilities, and you're always going to feel short-sighted by life because it's random and it's crazy and it's chaos. But the money thing can trick you. Like if you have a certain amount of money in the bank, like Brian Callen said it best to me. He's like, once you go to a restaurant and you don't worry about what food costs, he goes, everything else is bullshit. I was like, dude, you're right.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're free, right? When you know your rent is paid, you know your gas is paid, your car payment's paid. You're not worried about it at all. You can just go eat. Let's go eat. You don't care. You leave a nice fat tip. Thank you. Good night. Bye. That's when you're rich.
Right.
Everything other than that is like, what are you doing? Like, you just trying to score points? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to get the high score. Everybody wants to get the high score. That high score, like you're in there playing Centipede all day. Like you
What's Centipede?
I never thought about it like that.
Old school arcade game. They would come down like this. You'd shoot at them. Pew, 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 pew. It's Pong era, like just past Pong. It's super old school dork shit.
That's funny.
But that's what it's like.
Rule number 38, keep improving yourself daily.
When I was a kid, I always looked at normal people living normal lives. I could never relate. I never understood it. You know, I also grew up from a broken home, and we were also on welfare, and, you know, the whole deal. Because I think a lot of motivated people come from a place of despair when they're younger.
Yeah.
And I always had this thought in my head that one day I would make it.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And then one day I realized, and I don't know when I realized it, probably when, like, on paper I'd already made it.
Yeah.
I realized, oh, there's no such place. Like, this is not real. Like, you can't ever, you don't make it. No one makes it.
Yeah.
Like, every day you have to be trying to do better. Every day you have to be trying. First of all, there's no perfect human. Let's accept that. You're always going to be flawed. You're always going to be subject to fits of rage and envy and all the things that you wish that you would never have in your mind. So you've got to constantly be working to make sure that that never happens.
Rule number 39, exercise.
Let's say that I feel like, you know what, society says everything's great. I'm unhappy.
Exercise.
Financially, okay,
Exercise.
why is exercise the one?
Because you get your blood pumping.
Right.
You release natural endorphins and you legitimately feel better. And I also think of this all the time. I think of your body as almost like the energy in your body is like a battery, and it requires a certain amount of use. And when you don't use it, it overflows. And then you get weird behavior and overreacting to things, and you almost like get antsy. You got to get up and move.
Rule number 40, own your mistakes.
I've made a lot of mistakes. I make them all the time. I'm a dummy. All right, like I do my best, but ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a lot of dummy in me, and I do my best. But if I make a mistake, I will own the shit out of that mistake. If you talk to me about it and you want to have a discussion about it, I'm not one of those people that I don't think there's any value in pretending you didn't make a mistake. I think there's
but that's
a real
societal.
But I think we're wrong about that
misconception.
But it's they don't know. The people that did it didn't understand. The rules that were written by people who really hadn't had a good grasp of the territory yet. They didn't really understand what they were saying. They should have taught people that in school. They should have taught people like that in junior high school for sure. They should have said your failures, those feelings that you feel. Like they teach you about history and math, and those things are great. There's nothing wrong with that. But they should have taught us about how your failures are a very valuable fuel.
Yeah.
That feeling that you get when a girl dumps you, or that feeling that you get when you crash your car, or that feeling that you get when you ruin something, you say something wrong, when something comes out of your mouth, when anything you do wrong, you flunk out of a class, whatever the it is, that negative feeling is a boost. It's supposed to take you into the next orbit. It's supposed to blast you into the next level of understanding what you were doing wrong and how to improve in your life and how to go forward with better habits. And if you don't experience that pain, that feeling, that embarrassment, then you don't really know how valuable it is to stay on your grind.
Rule number 41, keep improving yourself.
You constantly be working to make sure that you are always evaluating your perspective on life and always looking at things. Meditate, constantly meditate. Make sure that you approach life with a learned perspective, like you're a better person than you were the day before, and whatever you're trying to do, whether it's fighting or whether you have an art form that you practice, whatever it is that you're doing, you're trying to do better every day, and you never, even if you accomplish some, like when, you accomplish some amazing work of art, that's just that day. The next day you got to go back to work. Like if you have a world championship fight and you've trained for 8 weeks and you win by knockout, it's a spectacular result, and you're very happy with the result, you got a day or two to relax.
Yeah.
You got a day or two, and then you're like, okay, now what? Well, now you got to get back to work. And if you think that there's some place like a movie where you're holding hands with your loved ones and the sunset's going on and the credits roll, that's horseshit. And we have this idea in our head that there's this place that you can get to where you've, air quotes, made it.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you that doesn't exist. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm not the most successful person in the world, but on paper, I've accomplished a lot of shit, and it doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Every day I get up and I'm like, all right, I gotta figure out how to do this. I got to work on this new bit. Okay, I got this podcast today. I got to be on point. Let me think about this. Let me read this book. Let me, whatever the subject is, let me get into it. You have to. If you don't, you're going to feel like shit.
Rule number 42, exercise.
People are so crazy. They want you to believe, I don't have the energy to exercise. God damn it. Everyone does. If you're alive, you can exercise.
I believe that. I've been there. I know I'm a different case, but I've seen my dad there. And then here's the thing. Once he fixed up his diet, once he went to this carnivore diet, he's exercising now.
Sure, he's got less weight on his body. He feels better.
And he has energy.
That's wonderful. He could have exercised then too. He would have felt for sure. Wouldn't have felt as good as he's feeling now. But to give people this excuse, I don't have the energy to exercise, that is crazy to say. Can you walk to the refrigerator? Yes. Well, you can exercise. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just walk around the block. There's 80-year-old ladies who take yoga with me. They're really old, and they're in there. They're going after it. They could easily say, I don't have the energy to do that. But they don't. It's a mental attitude. They make a decision.
I agree. Like, there's a lot of it's discipline. You're going to get people who just won't exercise.
You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to go to a CrossFit class and try to do the workout of the day. You don't have to go nuts and do clean and presses with 150 pounds. You don't have to do that, but you have to do something. Just get your blood moving. Your body has requirements. It wants to move. It really does. And when it does, you feel better. But people like to give themselves this excuse. I do not have the energy to do this. Whatever. If you decide that, that's true. But if you watch a motivational video, there's 100 of them on YouTube, thousands even. You go watch one, you'll get fired up. You're like, and I'm going to jump some rope. You jump some rope, you do something. Just do some push-ups, do something, do some body weight squats. You'll feel better. But it's also like learning that and having that as a part of your daily life. It has to be, again, I'm not talking about someone like you who's in the throes of this autoimmune disorder where you're getting your hip replaced at 17. I'm not talking about someone with like serious degenerative illness. I'm talking about just a regular person who's overweight. You can do it. There's a lady who's like 450 pounds that takes yoga with me. She's enormous. She's in there. She's probably really embarrassing. Very hard to do.
Yeah.
And she's in there. Anyone could do it. We can do it. And again, I'm not saying do what Michael Phelps does. I'm just saying just do something. Got to do something. We have up lifestyles. The lifestyles that people have are just, the human body is not designed to sit down all day, and it's certainly not designed to be stuck in traffic and be in an office and just be, fluorescent lights and just sitting there in front of a computer monitor watching your soul get sucked through the LCD screen. It's crazy.
Rule number 43, don't waste your mind bandwidth.
Wondering why other people's success or wondering why other people are successful is the refuge of losers.
Yes.
It's a loser mentality. It's a loser occupation. It's a loser practice because you're wondering why other people are successful. Like, who gives a you can say you think it sucks, but to spend time wondering why someone is successful and hating on someone for being successful, it doesn't do any good. It's like, what is that old expression that jealousy is, it's a poison that does the opposite of its intended? It doesn't affect the other person at all, but it poisons yourself.
Yeah.
It wastes your energy and time.
It just is so, it's so indicative that you are insecure.
Yes.
It's like people don't realize what a giveaway that is when they are talking shit. You're just like, this is just showing me that you don't like yourself.
Well, I figured out, there's something that I figured out personally, and that I try to relay this, and I try to be more clear and more concise the way I relay it. The way I look at it is that your mind, you have a certain amount of bandwidth. This is why I don't read Instagram comments or Twitter comments or YouTube comments. Like, I don't have any time. If I read them, it's an accident. But to seek them out, you have bandwidth. I don't spend time wondering why I hate things or hating on someone or being jealous. You have, let's call it units. You have 100 units of bandwidth in your mind. So that means there's 100 units that you can spend on things you care about, or you could let your mind be occupied by some stupid Twitter feud that you're in with some idiot that you don't even know, and you could spend 30% of your Twitter bandwidth or your mind bandwidth on this, and then you only have 70% for the things you love. And then maybe you're involved in some relationship with someone who's an idiot, and you're arguing back and forth with them. Well, there's another 30% that's gone. Now you have 40% left. You have 40% for the things you love instead of 100%. But if you only concentrate on the things you care about that mean something to you and learn how to do that, like you were talking about meditation, it's a form of meditation. Because you're learning how to avoid the little road bumps and the ditches on the side of the road.
That can suck your bandwidth.
Suck your bandwidth.
You could give them just a little bit and go, okay, no. But or you could lean in.
Like how you're saying when you stopped drinking, all of a sudden your career took off.
Mhm.
You started doing well because
More bandwidth.
you had more bandwidth and you had less problems. This problem that you had that was rotting you away no longer existed. So now all of a sudden it frees up your time and you realize, oh my God, there's so many funny things that I could talk about and I have so much energy and I'm so healthy. I could just go on stage and have fun and then you're killing it.
Rule number 44, don't be materialistic.
If you don't have a good grasp of what's really important in this life, and unfortunately, a lot of times we need everything taken away for us to really understand what those things really are.
Yeah. I mean, you can appreciate some things. You can appreciate a nice car or a nice house, but if you get really caught up in them, you are trying to fill up a bucket with a hole in it.
Yeah.
And it's never going to fill up.
Yeah.
You're always just going to look for bigger and bigger things to try to fill that bucket up. And you're going to feel full of anxiety all the time chasing that.
Yeah.
And there's no real satisfaction. Then that's why, when you look at one of the things that people look at when you look at people that are extremely materialistic, that, wear the most fancy jewelry and drive the most fancy cars and the biggest houses, we always think they're shallow. Yeah. Always. I mean, isn't that funny? Like the thing that you would look at in terms of like markers for success. Markers is like material things are the big ones, right?
Yeah.
They're the big markers for success. The big house, that's the big one, right?
Yeah.
Big ass mansion. Look at this mansion.
Big everything.
Big everything. Look at big rock on his finger.
Yeah.
Big chain. Big this, big that. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
And it's so ingrained in us from the time that we're born.
Because it's hard to get.
Yeah.
That's why it's a trick. It's one of those things that's hard to get, so you think you want to get it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that are hard to get that are worth getting.
For sure.
Right? I mean, becoming a great fighter is hard, but it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Because once you do it and you realize, like there's an expression that I've used before, but my Taekwondo instructor said to me when I was a little boy, he said, martial arts are a vehicle for developing your human potential.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I'm like, oh, shit. And I've used that many times, explain it to people. But that is the benefit of getting good at a martial art.
Yeah.
Like you go through this difficult thing, and then through that you reap all these personality rewards. Mm-hmm. You reap these character rewards. You reap this understanding of what you're capable of, right? If you are capable of making it through a brutal camp and getting up in the morning when you know you don't want to, that alarm clock goes off and you're like, I don't want to run, but you do it. You go out and run and you do it every day and you get through it, and then you're successful and you realize that you have this incredible endurance because of the discipline that you put in. You realize that you have this incredible skill and this understanding of how to fight correctly because of all the time and the hours and the focus. You're a better person because of that, right? That's a real goal. But that yacht, I'm gonna work 16 hours a day so I can get a bigger yacht, and then I need a house with bigger windows. I need there's a nonsense to that. Like, look, I'm not saying if you can afford a nice house, get a nice house. It's great to have a nice house. But what I'm saying is, it's not the end.
Yeah,
it's You are the project. Yeah. Your mind is the project.
Yeah.
How you treat people is the project.
Yeah.
How the way you are with your family and your friends and your loved ones and the people you communicate with. Get better at that.
Yeah.
That's the goal in this life. The goal in this life is how we treat each other.
Rule number 45, make healthy boundaries.
If you don't have certain standards, then other people will chew up all your time. And their problems become your problems, and they're not even thinking about their problems. They're thinking about you thinking about their problems. I mean, there's many people that pawn off their problems on other folks, and they think that if you're a good friend, you're helping me. Like, you're not a good friend. You're not taking care of me. You're not helping me. I'm like, you're not even helping yourself.
Yeah.
The f*** are you doing for yourself? Like, this is a trap that a lot of people get stuck into. It's codependency. It happens in a lot of relationships. There's a lot of people that get involved in relationships, boy and girl, that they find that the person who is their soulmate is also the source of all their problems, and they're the curator of this person's life. They're supposed to be like helping this person along because this person is like deemed them the person who's most important to them. And it's like you gotta find out what, you know, what's the boundary where you won't cross, where you realize like someone is becoming an impediment to your own happiness and success.
Rule number 46, learn from failures.
I think here's an important thing too. I think failure teaches you things that you don't learn from success. I think failure gives you an opportunity for self-examination and also gives you a feeling that is very uncomfortable. And that very uncomfortable feeling helps you grow. And don't look at these failures as like proof that you suck. Look at them as opportunities for growth. Look at them as opportunities to be motivated to do better.
Rule number 47, push yourself.
There's purity in physical pursuits, right? Because it doesn't matter what your social status is. It doesn't matter how people perceive you. When it comes down to how long can you stay in that pool, when it comes down to how far can you run, when it comes down to how much can you push yourself past the part where you want to quit, how far can you keep going? There's a purity in that it dissolves social order, all that bullshit. What people think about you goes out the window. It's who are you right now?
That's right.
Who are you right now?
Rule number 48, figure out the right path.
You can only have so much success in this life before you start thinking that you're different than other people. You know, you're thinking that you're something special. No, look, if you're on a path, right? If everybody's on a path and you start off here and then X amount of years later, you're way away. Yeah. You could start thinking, oh, I'm better than all those. Yeah. But you're not. You just have been on this path longer, and you haven't fallen off of it. You've figured out what you need to do to stay on that path. We know a lot of people that were on the path at one time in their career, and then something happened, and they lost their enthusiasm, or their body wasn't as healthy, or whatever the happened, and they dropped off. I'm still on that path.
Why?
Because I figured it out.
What is it?
Keep going. Keep going. Don't be a pussy. Keep working. Improve. Objectively analyze your performance, look at what you're doing wrong, treat everything with respect, treat all of your endeavors with focus and intensity and intention, look at what you're doing, and pay attention and do the work. Do the goddamn work. Do the writing, do the performing. You'll see me, I'll do 4 or 5 sets a night in LA. Yeah. I'm doing 15, 20 minutes, half hour. I'll do an hour here. I'll go down to the Ice House. I'll do an hour at the Ice House. I'm doing 2 shows at the Ice House tomorrow night. Right. And I go. There's no excuses. I go. You know, it's like, to me, the way I've got it set up, it's great. My kids go to bed. By the time my kids are in bed, I leave.
You're out.
You know, I say goodnight. I tuck them in. I'm out the door. I'm headed to the club. I'm home in 4 hours. You know, and when I'm done, I get in front of the computer and I write. I get up in the morning. I see him off to school. Go back to sleep, or I go to the gym. I get things done. Keep moving.
Rule number 49: get accustomed to stressful situations.
Just dealing with stressful situations in the tank. Like if there's a weird freak out that happens, like how do you handle it? Like what do you do? And I was saying that the more stressful situations that I experience, the more I understand what they are and the more I can relax. But it's also like a matter of constantly being exposed to these stressful situations where there's not a long break in between doing stand-up or a long break in between martial arts training where to the point where anxiety can build up. And then once you get into it, it's almost an unusual situation instead of a usual one.
And rule number 50, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
I was at home the other day, high as giraffe. You watching the History Channel? And they had this documentary on, In Search of Noah's Ark. And I went, oh, how about you go looking for the snuffleupagus while you're at it? I heard that dude's a missing. You really gonna go? Yeah? Hey, on the way back, will you go to Whoville and get me some green eggs and ham? You gullible prick. Whoa. Don't get me wrong. If you're religious, I'm not saying there's no God. I'm saying people are full of shit and that story sucks. Hello? Why do we have to believe it just because it's been around a long time and it makes no sense. If you tell the story of Noah in the ark to an 8-year-old retarded boy, he's gonna have some questions. It's just a bad story. Even if you're really good at telling stories, you sit him down. Well, Bobby, once upon a time, God was mad at all the people in the world. And instead of telling them what they were doing wrong and offering guidance, he decided to go ahead and drown everyone. And he only told one man, a random man named Noah. Just picked him out of a crowd. He wasn't a special man. In fact, Noah was 600 years old and a drunk. Anyway, God told Noah to build a boat, and he and his family would be the only people to survive the flood. Because apparently, all the other people with boats, their shit didn't work. Noah magically got 2 of each animal to come to him on foot from all over the world. And they willingly boarded the boat and got into cages. And they sailed away for 40 days and 40 nights, and civilization began anew. 8-year-old retarded boy is gonna go, oh, there's a lot of holes in that story.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Joe on how to enjoy what you do that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, where do you need to push yourself harder? Let me know, put it down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, you're still here watching, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below. I wanna celebrate you. We don't just watch videos here, we do something about it. So give me that believe in the comments below too.
It's very rare that someone is successful that doesn't have a crazy schedule.
Yes.
And if they are, they're not going to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, you know, like, but it's all like, what is where you're at? Like, is where you're at where you want to be? Like, are you enjoying it?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm happy about the most is that I enjoy what I do. So when I'm doing, like, if I was working as a CEO of some corporation or something like that, and I was putting all these crazy hours, like the same kind of hours I put in now, the same kind of effort, I'd probably be a miserable, drunk, pill-popping psychopath who's just looking to escape and go bang hookers or something. I'd be looking for some sort of a release.
If you want to see the top 50 I did on David Goggins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Not getting civilized is about having a savage mentality. You have to judge yourself against yourself. And that's the one thing I started learning.